Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I am the CEO of Leadershipity, a longtime member of the entrepreneur organization, currently serving as the president of EOS Michigan. And I wrote a book, author of Leading Winning Teams, though most people probably know me as a speaker and a coach in Major League Baseball, where I coached in 3 World Series. And today on the Winners Find a Way show, I welcome my good friend and the man, Matthew Cox. How you doing,
What's
buddy?
going on? Good. What's going on, Trent?
Oh man, I'm fired up.
Yeah,
Fired up to
yeah,
always talk with you, man. I mean, we go back a few years now, and been out, spent time at your home in Las Vegas,
hmm
time with your brother. You and I were on a TEDx talk together out in
yeah. That was
Utah,
fun.
and so we just spent some real high quality time. Share a mission, vision, value for family and background and faith and man, I'm just really always excited when we get a chance to spend some time together. And you have a unique story backdrop of where you came from, large family, and growing up with disabilities. And we want to get into that. But first, let's talk a little bit about company Xceleration and your background. You know, you're married,
Yeah.
have a few kids, you're a University of Phoenix graduate with an MBA in public health administration. Also, Duke University Certificate of Healthcare Initiative. I mean, that's another feather in your cap. Anytime you can go to Duke, right? And then your True Colors, personality certified. And I love that because there's so much factor in that. I've gotten so much
hmm
from DISC and these programs, learning about people's styles. So good. And of course, you are an author also, which I love, and what is the courage to learn differently?
Yeah.
And you co-wrote that book with Erica Walking Stick, right?
Walking stick. Yep.
I love that. I love Erica Walking
Yeah.
Stick. And so, I
She's
mean,
a good lady.
but talk a little bit about that book, because that book
Yeah.
is a transformation of a little bit of all the knowledge you gained from your experiences growing up in a disability. Is that fair?
Yeah. So it is. So we set on the task to do the book when I worked with Don Lowry and Erica. Don was the founder of True Colors. Very wealth knowledge individual on temperament. He's the late Don Lowry. He passed just not long ago. It's been about a year now, and we lost a true pioneer as far as temperament theory. Don's work did a lot for us in that area. He was mentored by Kersley, so if anybody knows who Kersley was, and then above personality would be the Meyer-Briggs. Everybody knows Meyer-Briggs.
Mm-hmm.
So Don was in that category in 1978. He brought it out. So me and Erica got together and started writing my story. So in the story is my growing up with a learning disability. It's a little, and I need to redo it again because I want to extend the story. But we got a basic foundation of growing up with it, what I went through as a kid struggling with an intellectual disability. Mine was reading and writing, the ability to decode. So I read at a 4th grade level, even as an adult. You wouldn't know because I don't tell you. You've known me how long, Trent? I mean,
Yeah,
you
three
would have
years.
never known. And then also in my mathematics. So a lot of people don't realize I struggled with attention deficit, like all of us maybe. But the executive part of the brain, if you're working in that, a lot of times those kiddos will have depression or anxiety. But what it did for me is it caused my executive part of the brain just not to decode. Now, I have some really good authors I follow. There's one, Jonathan Mooney. He always says, reading between the lines, he's an author. I had him on my radio show years ago, and he says, look, that's the way man taught us how to learn, is reading and math. It doesn't mean you're dumb.
Yeah.
And I learned this at a young age. So to talk about the book, I wanted to give teachers and parents hope, because a lot of times when they have kiddos like myself, they're like, what are they going to do for a living? Well, I did well. I exited a few companies, but I was very creative on knowing how to see things and get people to the table and paint a vision. But I think my superpower is culture, you know, defining a culture and getting people to understand that we got to march all together. Not all leaders have that. Would you agree? I mean, not a lot of
Yeah, I
leaders
agree. Yeah.
can do that. and I think my intellectual disability, it was probably in my late 30s. I finally realized it was a superpower, not a disability.
Hmm.
Because society tells me it's a disability, right?
Yeah.
But in back in the day when you had one arm, you either adapt or you die, right?
Yeah.
When we were out hunting beasts with spears and as caveman, if you believe in that evolution, um, it's the same thing here that I've learned. Either I adapted or I die. So, but here's the thing, and and then I'll throw it back at you. I want people to understand too. For me, with AI and having Chat GP, it was like the wheelchair being taken off, because now I can talk, I can use my framework, I can voice my voice and be in written language. Now it was like I was. I think I cried for a minute. Like I was like, "Holy smokes! I can now share myself." Because I've always spoke. I've always been a public speaker. Because I really did well in that. I remember a backstory. I was sitting in front of one of my professors, Trent. He was my speaking professor. I took a public speaking class. I told him, "Hey, I want to be a professional speaker, and I have a learning disability. I struggle at this." He goes, "Oh, you're probably not going to make it then." And at the end of that course, in the end of this semester, I ended up being the featured public speaker at the end of that course. And then I've been paid several times very high amounts of money to speak over the years. I've probably done over 1,000 speaking events, both training and in person. So what I've learned is don't listen to people. Like they mean well. Like he meant well. He was trying to
Yes.
protect me from failure. And you being you saw that a lot, right? Hey, only 1% make it. Don't do it. And then the athletes that are most successful, they ignored everybody and kept working. Like Jordan, how many times did he get cut?
Yeah.
How many times he fell? But he became the best basketball player ever, right?
Yeah.
So
Ever.
Year or two.
Yeah. I think it's a great. I think it's another great lesson, right? And we got to be careful where we take advice from. And I think it's
yes.
really important that understand that it's not malice, right? It's not ill will intent. It is actually someone saying, "Hey, from my experience," and that's all it is, their own experience. And now you have to wonder, do they have experience in telling you what you should be doing? Like that's the key thing. And I get a kick out of the no, but I did say at a Holiday Inn Express last night commercials, where it's like, oh, I'm smarter because I did this, right? It's funny, but that's the whole. It's satire. It doesn't make you smarter because you stayed there. So like at the end of the day, I'm not taking advice from somebody because they stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, right? These guys really should be advertising on my show because I talk about this once a month. So like, but at the end of the day, it's so important that just because you got advice that maybe you don't agree with or something like that, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden someone is trying to give you or set you off in a wrong direction. It's up to you to vet, is this advice I should be doing? So how have you learned that along the road?
That's a good question. One of the things when I get advice from people, they'll say, "This is going on. I'll have to filter it." So I've learned to filter things, because you also have to come from the perspective of that individual's way they see the world, right? Because we all don't see it we see the world in a different way in our own lens. And so if they say, "Hey, you're not doing this right," or "This is what I see," hey, we'll appreciate your advice or your opinion. But let's look at it this way. Let's get down to really what we're talking about. Because people, like I always say this, and going off that is, people will give you advice and they'll hand it out for free. And so you can, especially in today's social media, we're a vice overload, because you go onto like LinkedIn or any of these platforms, there's a lot of advice, right?
Yeah, lots.
And there's a lot of unqualified advice giving. Like so for entrepreneuring, as we're talking about business owners, and because that's kind of our theme, is how many coaches, Trent, are on there that never ran a business and they're giving advice. Because when we started this game a long time ago, probably 10 years ago, there was hardly any coaches. Like I was a life coach back then, and nobody did life coaching, and now it's everywhere.
Oh yeah, so
Every,
so
every,
noisy, right?
yeah, and then now we're scaling coaches, and how many scaling coaches are there now?
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a
Tony
lot.
Robbins is getting into it, so that tells you something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the market indicators. When Tony gets involved, oh, now he's a scaler. Oh, and he's good. He's a motivational guy, big teeth guy, you know.
Yeah.
But then now Grant Cardone's getting into it. Oh, geez, like he's the bottom of that industry, and so he sees there's money. So there's a lot of advice. I would just say you got to use filters. You got to see trends, and you got to just say thank you for that advice, and then go back and sort it out, because there is some good advice. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You've done really well in your career. I would take your advice to heart. Like if you say, "Hey Matt, you have a booger in your nose and your flies down. I'm your friend. Let me tell you something." Because I'd rather you tell me that than somebody else, because I'll take that advice from you versus somebody that has no clue who I am. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
I don't
100%.
know if that. Yeah. So that.
And I think that we've learned along the way is that we've really gauged that out significantly. But let's talk a little bit about. I love this idea. Before we move into some of the challenges that people need to look at something differently. Like I want one thing that people most don't know about you, Matt. Matthew, you've been in this game a long time, and you're well regarded as a healthcare expert, and especially in like brain health and emotional health and people straddling a lot of times called mental health. I don't love that word, but um, what most people don't know about you is you have an undergraduate film degree. Like you
Yeah.
were kind of going in another direction, right? Like were you going to be the next Denzel Washington, or were you going to be a director, or what was your thing there?
Well, it's funny. The reason I got into film is I was you use the word ciliar what at the beginning. You're a
Serial.
yeah. So, see, there's my short bus in me.
Yeah, there you
There's a thing with ADD kids. It's called nostalgia, where everything goes into one area and we stumble over words. So if you ever
go.
have a kid do that, you'll know what that is.
Nice.
So you mentioned that, and when I was in school, I was all over the place because I was trying to find where I landed. And so I started going down a career in, I think it was surgical technician at one time,
Hmm.
and I did all the classes. That was the most grinding little thing because I had to learn 200 medical terms, and that was a hard class, by the way. So I passed it very very slightly, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. Then I went into logo design or design work, and I was like, oh, this would be boring. And then I went into programming, coding. Back then it was like C++ or something. That's how old I am.
Mm.
So this is kind of my journey, how I got there, because I was
At
like,
least it wasn't DOS, man. Like
yeah,
you're
DOS. Yeah.
not that old. Like I'm a
No,
DOS guy. Like people learned DOS when I was in college. That's how old I am.
I heard about it then,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then I fell into, because again, reading wasn't my strength and mathematics wasn't. So in coding, you had to know calculus. So I was like, I'm out. And then I landed into a new. They just started the degree. It was called mass communication at Dixie College, and you've heard that Dixie State College. Now it's called Utah Tech,
Hmm.
and so we fell into this new degree called mass communications, and you got to learn everything. You were a jack in all trades, a master in none. So you learned a little bit of radio production, TV production. So we would go shoot the games, the football games. So we had to learn that. And then we finally got an emphasis in filmmaking, and I fell in love with it. So I stuck on that. Same story happened. I talked to the director of that, said I want to do this for a living. I want to really get this. And I told him I had a learning disability, and same thing. Oh, it's going to be hard. You got to know how to do it. Towards the end of that semester, he asked me to help him co-author something or co-shoot something. And so it's what I've learned is I get crap done. And that's why I fell into it. And I love telling stories. Like for a short bus kid, it really just spoke home because I can shoot something, tell a story, and pipe it. And I just shot some documentaries just not long ago for Medicaid fraud. And then I shot one on how medical reform, where they raised the caps on suing doctors here in Nevada. So the malpractice. So we shot a documentary on that. So it's really fun. I think that's why I got into it, Trent, because it was storytelling, but I never really pursued it because the industry is very corrupt and it's a very shyster industry. Does that make sense?
Well, so you chose
Yeah.
healthcare.
Yeah, and I chose another one, so I guess it's the same thing. Yeah, good point. So, but I think I
Well,
chose
I think
healthcare. That's a whole nother story.
what I think when I think about this as kids, like first of all, I don't know if it was always this way or what's happened along the way, but it certainly feels like we've lost authenticity in these categories
Hmm.
of trust and belief
Oh
that
yeah,
they're actually out for our best interests, right? It feels like it just is we've lost that as a country. and
yep.
and I'm and I'm we're also looking at, it's not just us, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I just saw a statistic about Canada, where nearly 5% of their deaths now are MAID deaths, which are medically assisted deaths that they
Yep.
have approved. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when Kevorkian, because he's a Michigan guy, when Kevorkian helped a young man who was dying from a horrible disease and he'd been in a lot of chronic pain for a long time. He's like, hey man, I'm good. I want to go. This pain is just too much.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing. And now all of a sudden, we have a country that denies healthcare for at a certain age. You're not
Yep.
allowed.
You're
We,
not
we, we
allowed.
don't we don't spend our resources on people that old.
Nope.
And now if you're really uncomfortable, we'll help you die. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like the most inhumane thing. And I just don't know it. I don't know what's going on. But when I see statistics like that, nearly 5%, like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is staggering. Staggering.
Yeah. It healthcare in general. That's such a. I just finished a Duke University certificate for healthcare leadership, um, and what you learn in healthcare here in the States is in the 1980s, roughly, and I'm not exact on the time. Healthcare was affordable then.
Hmm.
And then when it really, and I could be wrong on that date, so you fact checked or go look it, but when it really went south is when corporate America got involved in healthcare.
Mm.
Um, so doctors, I remember growing up, and Trent, you remember the community doctor, you'd go to him, and he knew I had my doctor would come. He was my best friend. I mean, his son is my doctor now, so I
Hmm.
do teletherapy with my buddy I went to school with, and and so we remembered his dad. We were talking one time. His dad would come to my house when we were sick. That's how small the town was.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't exist anymore because now it's 15 minutes, maybe if you're lucky, it's 8 minutes, because these doctors have to make quotas to even survive as doctors.
Yeah.
And then malpractice in the States is so high because you have the PI attorneys that are just ambulance chasers. And it's
Hmm.
all about getting the money, not really did they harm a patient? Because if you talk to a PI attorney, they're, oh, I'm a savior. I'm changing the world. No, you're just chasing insurance money.
Mm.
And the poor doctors that are good doctors, because there is mistakes. And so that's what malpractice is for. When you go in and you're supposed to operate on the right hand and you cut the left hand off, that's a malpractice issue. That's why
Yeah.
you have it. But if the patient just doesn't like you because you're not nice, and then they sue you, and then poor doctor, or they just said it wrong. But PI attorneys jump all over that because then
Yeah.
they make a big case out of it. But our malpractice, like I have a story where this is how crazy the medical industry here is. My brother has what's called hydrocephalus, or water on the brain. So he has a shunt in his head, my older brother. And he went into the ER, and the doctor's like, oh, he's drunk. He needs to stop drinking. Because when the shunt shuts down, it makes you look like you're drunk. You're
Yeah.
you're incoherent
Yeah.
because the water puts pressure. And he sends him home from the ER. And in the shunt it caused damage. But with the problem is, I even try to help him, but the attorneys, if they don't see a good case there, they drop you. So he sued the doctor in the ER because it caused damage, because that's malpractice, right? That would be considered malpractice
Hmm.
because he didn't call in a neurosurgeon. He didn't, because we told him he has a shunt. You need a neurosurgeon. This is the signs. Because we grew up. I remember when he was 8, it shunt failed, and it was crazy. So that's what we're up against. Yes, our medicals has good sides to it in the US, but there's very much downsides to it. And it
Yeah.
is a profit machine. It is a mafia when it comes to the medical system, because
Yeah.
only a few companies run the whole thing. Kind of like the banking. You remember the Rockefellers, and medical's the same way.
Mm.
There's a
As we get to this, let's talk about I think what has happened over the last few years is I think there's a new level of open mind. I think we're realizing that we
I
can't
agree.
trust information, so we better keep our minds open to things. Do you think that's helped? Like when you talk about um, the courage to learn differently, which you wrote a little while ago,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really groundbreaking at the time, where people weren't thinking. You know, we were kind of put in a box as kids, like. And I can remember, you know, if you're from a big family, you know, I can remember, oh, you're gonna get one of the Clark boys. Like, I was like, wait a minute, man, I just arrived and I've already got a reputation, and it's based on my 4 and 6 year old brother, you know, that 4 and 6 years older than me, on
Mm-hmm.
based on something of probably one event that happened, and now I'm a label, and I'm like, holy cow, man, like, is this really how it works? Is this really how it is? And so, I think that what we have, I think one of the probably I don't know, benefit is one of the loss of integrity of a lot of media and data and information, and there's so much, is that we become, the downside is probably a lot less trusting.
Mm-hmm.
The upside might be you need to open your mind and look and verify data and really get information from people you know and trust, and learning whatever way, and there's a lot of different ways to learn, is really important. You're going to
Yeah.
have continuous learning is almost critical to me now in anyone surrounding our programs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're not learning, you're dying, because you have to continuously learn. In my profession, when I was leading a lot of clinicians, I'm not a clinician, but when I was leading a lot and I was hiring a lot of them, it's amazing. Even doctors, you have to continue to learn after you go to school. And if you're not in school, let's say you're in the world of cells, you need to read one book a month at least. Like, you got to, and there's no excuse now, Trent, because we have Audible.
Yeah.
Like, you can jump on and listen to it, because if a short bus kid like me can do it now, I get on and listen to it while I'm working out. And knowledge is knowledge. However you obtain it, it's like calories in, deficit out, right? It's the same thing in knowledge. You have to feed the brain. It's just like your muscles. If you don't feed calories right, you won't get strong. And it's the same thing in the brain. It is a muscle. You have to create those neuropaths. So yeah, I think a lot of people get lazy because they get done. I remember when you went to school, you remember if I can just get through this degree, then I can do this.
Mm,
Because we
yeah.
got sold that bag of goods. Like, if I just finish college, I can get a good job. And if I
Mhm.
could just get here, then I can get a house. And so there's a lot of ifs. Like, in what I've learned as an
Well,
entrepreneur, there's
if
no
and
if
when,
there.
right?
Yeah,
It's
if
if,
and
then
when.
when. Yeah, then
Yeah,
if I do this, when I
yeah,
get that. Like, it's a cause and effect, right?
yeah. And knowledge is the same way. You're not going to learn it by watching YouTube. You can obtain it from some of the stuff, but YouTube is only going to give you a micro bit of it, and then you got to dig more and dig more. And so there's ways to it's going to we're going to have like an IV of knowledge now, because AI is going to be able to plug us, kind of like the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's ways to you can upload knowledge now and put it into a podcast form. Like,
Well, I
yeah,
think
it's crazy.
two things really come to mind on this. Is one is you and I both know a bunch of people with some real
Yeah,
superpowers who have done what we've done, built companies and
yeah,
sold
yeah,
them, and really overcome some challenges in our life.
definitely.
And part of that is we always talk about, hey, when one thing isn't great for you, You find out what is good for you and you maximize your strengths. You don't focus in on your weakness or something that you're not strong in, something that's
Mhm.
inhibiting you from moving ahead. You focus on, hey, what can I do to overcome this? What are
Correct.
the things I can do? And I think that's really been a game changer because I have tons of stories on this show of these people.
Mhm.
The other thing I think about learning is I have to tell a lot of people, like, you can read and get the information, but you got to get the experience
Apply
too.
it.
You know,
Yeah.
Matthew Cox is a great driver. So if I ride around in the car with you for 2,000
Mhm.
hours, am I going to be a good driver? Like, no,
Yeah.
I just watched him drive and I
Yeah.
experienced it. And while helpful, and that's great, I'm going to have to get the reps. If I'm going to become a good driver like Matthew, I'm going to have to go and do it. And I think people, especially in this young era, they're thinking, hey, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I got it. Like, well, hold on, man. Like, hold
Yeah.
on. Like, you better get reps.
Well, it's funny you say that because like the YouTubers or them, they get it. Like I look at it, I'm an entrepreneur, like physical building companies, scaling teams. Then I look at the YouTube thing and I'm like, huh? Like it doesn't, and it is a form of a business that just blows your mind, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing is you really have to look at like you said, the reps, but the right reps. Because I'm going to go to you because you were a trainer, right? Hey, train, I want to lose some weight. Because you used to train teams. That's what got them to the World Series. You were the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to come to you and say, what do I do? I'm not going to go to a person that, and you've heard this analogy. You don't go hire somebody that's never been in a gym, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or fitness. And they don't need it. I'm not saying they have to go to the gym, but if they look the part, everybody goes ask, how did you get fit? Like
Hmm.
if they're like, we use our good friend Alex Morosi. He's big. He was a gym guy before he became
Yeah.
who he is, right?
Yeah.
And so nobody ever asks him about gyms anymore. Now they just ask him about scaling them in
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I, I do agree. You got to get the reps, and the dangerous thing today is there's just so much noise.
Mm.
So who do we hire? Like who do we go to? What coach, right?
Well, like, let's talk about what we do. You and
Yeah.
I both help build companies scale them because we've done that. We've had success doing it ourselves and helping leaders grow. Now we have, I've helped athletes flourish in their pro careers. I've helped entrepreneurs flourish and get what they want, an exit and a strategy for
Hmm.
financial independence, freedom, profitability, time, all these things of what they want. Now, you and
Yeah.
I back that with a software called Bloom Growth, which is
Oh yes.
14,000 companies have gone through, over 50,000 leaders. I mean, we got a lot of exposure to a lot of data that continues to help. And then we overlay our real world experience with the data that backs us all up into our software. What's some of the three biggest leadership challenges you've really seen? Because we are kind of industry agnostic. Even though you're a healthcare expert, you've
Hmm.
worked with
Yeah.
professional services, you've worked with
Mhm.
widget makers, you've manufacturing, you name it, right? We've seen
Yeah.
about it all, right? So talk about some of the leadership things that you really see
Mm.
significant shortcomings that if a company's going to start moving forward, we got to tackle these kind of things early and often and make sure we shore it up.
I think the big thing when it comes to that is I remember Dave Ramsey says the biggest issue is you as a leader. You got to get out of the way so your company could grow, right?
Hmm.
Um, and because when we found the company, founders, what I see to answer that question is the founder. The founder becomes the problem, right? So you usually scale it. If I put on tons of hats, like I have a whole bunch of hats over here. So if this is what it looks like being a founder, right? We wear all the hats and um, and then we start scaling, and then we have to get rid of those hats.
Mm.
And what Dave Ramsey was saying is you got to eventually get out of the way. Like, yes, you founded it, but you got to start getting good people to run it because you can't scale. And I think that's what I've learned is, and then if you, and you know the saying, you hear it with our team, is that when you drag a leader in and they have to drag them around. I had one friend that was a leader, and it was more I want to bring this in, but I don't want to do it. You do it.
Mm.
And he was a very successful guy, and he has the heart of gold, but he did not want to change his ways. So you have those absent leaders that are like, look at me, I'm the face, and they're not in the trenches. And so you have kind of two types of leaders. Um, low content leaders, low information, high information leaders. And so I think leadership is tough, because when we go and that's our biggest thing. What you say when we go to work with C-suites is we got to define the leader, who's the head of the organization.
Mm.
And by scaling over the years now, it's been a couple of years now, 4 years now, working with lots of companies, and doing a lot of those pulsing, like you said, pulses, right? Going in and running a lot of leadership meetings. I think my thing when it comes to leadership is the leader has to have humility. They have to be willing and coachable and teachable, and take advice, because what we do is we come in and show, hey, there's a hazard to the left, don't go that way. Or we ask questions and say, why are you doing that? And so what a lot of I see is resistance. When there's a lot of resistance from that leader, those are red flags. Would you agree? Like, you're like, oh shoot, we're going to have a hard
Yeah.
time with this team.
Yeah, I don't want to push any rocks uphill, right? Because I tend to
Yeah,
find the
that's a good
boulder
way.
rolls over me eventually, right? Like, and it's tiring. And I think you got to have people that really want to go, and they want to hike together, and they want to, and they want a team around them. I love this. I love this visual of, that leader with the 8 hats on. And I'm like, hey, I got to hand my technology hat out.
Yeah.
I got to hand my marketing hat out. I got to hand my sales hat out. I got to hand my finance hat out, because I've been wearing these hats. HR, like, come on. And, like,
everything.
and team management and personnel. And it's a lot, right? I think what I do see is that, oh, hey, Matt, you take this hat. I kind of don't want to let it go, though. Like, you could take it, but like, I want to keep my hand on it. Like,
Yeah.
like, and I think that's where we're probably so strong at, in our world, we're so strong at bringing people along who have had success doing what you need them to do in the past. They've already proven they can do it. And by the way, they're kind of experts, and they've got a lot more reps doing than you have, because you've been only doing an eighth of this work, where I've been doing this work for 7 years, just focused on this one thing. So as you bring me in, you have full confidence. I'm going to take this from you, and you don't ever need to think about it again, because we got the communication. Dan, that's liberating, right? For me, for a guy who wants to have a team and go, man, I don't want to throw BP, catch the bullpens, be the outfield hitter, hit the infield balls, do the strategy, get the weight training done, do the training work, and wrap everybody up. Like, you can't be every man to an organization. So like, you're not going to do that. So, wow, I've got a great trainer who's wrapping everybody up and prepping them for their deal. And I got a great BP pitcher. I've got a great infield coach. I've got a great outfield coach. And, I've got these people who I have faith and trust, and they've proven their worth again and again, and value and contribution. And when you let them make those contributions, man, what a
game changer.
Yeah, what a huge. And I think this is one thing that most people don't get. Is people believe that if you bring Trent Clark and Matthew Cox in, you're going to get like, oh, I'm going to get that much better. The matrix of Trent and Matthew, like, no, because Trent's going to make 20 guys better, and Matthew's going to make 20 people better, and then all of a sudden you have an exponential growth.
Yeah,
This is just exponential growth. It's going to be crazy, because the impact those great people have, because we know that great employees outproduce low-level employees by 7x. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, and another thing, just to add to that, I think this brings leadership for me is, I have a term I always teach my clients is, leadership is behaviorship. So if you're in the room, because we see this all the time, Trent, it's like when you were coaching ball players, leadership is behaviorship. If I'm a leader, because in your sport, the pitcher was the leader, right? Or the umpire? Which one was it? The catcher?
I think the catcher is one of the biggest leaders on
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah. Okay.
Pitcher has a lot of control. You need a lot
So,
of, but the catcher
so
is
the,
probably the biggest
okay.
field general.
So if the catcher is sitting in there and he's negative, the team will feel that, right? And
Hmm.
so the same thing is, and you see this in leadership. So if I teach a catcher certain techniques and he tells me what I want to hear, then his behavior is different once he leaves, we're going to have an issue. And this is what I see with leaders. Leadership is hard. It's lonely at the top. I tell my CEOs all the time, it's very lonely here. That's why you hire me and Trent, because you need somebody to come and confide in, because you can't go talk to a lower level staff and they're not your friend. None
Mm.
of them that you work for, and it's hard because we want to treat them as family. They will confide with you, they'll listen to you, but they will turn on you in 2 minutes. And in most cases, and there's some loyal people, you got to find the loyal ones. Would you agree? And it's same in training. When you, as a ball player, you would train your ball players. If they didn't go exercise and do what Trent said, they wouldn't improve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same thing here in Bloom. And when we go into these leaderships, we can immediately see this team's going to rock it because they're doing everything we're telling them.
Hmm.
They're going home, they're practicing, they're using the Bloom language, they're using the software, they're doing the reps. And it's no different than you training ball players, because if people don't go do, hey, I gotta bend down with one knee so the ball doesn't go through my legs and I miss it. I'm guessing, I never played baseball, so like, and so same thing with soccer. Your midfielder is kind of the controller, and your goalie.
Yeah.
Your goalie is the back end field captain. Your midfield is your front end. And
Love
if
it.
your midfield is not controlling things, that's a CEO midfielder, because you're seeing where the plays, you're setting them up, and then my goalie's yelling at the defense what to do, right?
Hmm.
And he's saying, "What the heck you doing?" If it's a good goalie, you'll hear the goalie yelling, "Go here, go there, get out of my
Communicate.
way." And that's what I want to end on, and I'll pass it, is communication is number one. And
Mhm.
Trent, if we're not good leaders, I'm not a perfect leader, because I'm a very people person, and sometimes leaders confide too much in others, and it's the wrong person. And you got to be very careful as a CEO and a leader. Don't confide too much. Just, hey, what can I do? You're guiding them like Trent, you would train ball players. We're just a guider. That's what a coach is. Hey, this is how you need to behave as a CEO. This is the structure. Stay true to the Bloom structure, because what it does is it gives you an operating tool where you can have your life back. We're going to get you 15 hours to 20 hours a week back to you by running this system. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? I don't know if,
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
one of the things, like, I want to ask you a question about this,
Yeah.
because this is what I got. When I was coaching, I was a young coach. I was in the major leagues at 24 years old.
Oh, yeah. That's young.
So, that's young. I got 32-year-old players making 15 million or more going, why would I listen to you? You're 24 years old. What do you know? And I'm like, oh, well, I know physiologically what's happening to your body. And not only do I know, I was educated in that, but I've lived it. I had to go do it. And then I had to have surgery on my arm when I didn't take care of myself, and what happened in my career because of that. And so, like, I have this knowledge of how you can prepare and position for what's about to happen to maximize your value. I also know that I can do this with you between 20 and 35 minutes a day, instead of the inefficiency of you spending 90 minutes a day. Like, how do you get this really well? And so what I've always, and what we've done in Bloom is,
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain to these players, why would they trust me, is that we're aligned. Your success is my success. Like, when your players go out and stay on the field and stay healthy, and they're doing a great job, and they're fit, and they don't get injured, and they have a good career, that's aligned with their health often, because health takes a lot of careers out, right? So being wise about that and educating that was a big deal for you and I.
Hmm.
We are experts at really growing them through communication and execution,
Yes.
right? We really get them to that next level of how we're going to communicate really well, which most organizations are pretty bad at, and then how are we going to execute on the most important things. And we do that prioritization, and focus. Like we simplify, prioritize, focus on what has to be done, and don't get lost in all the minutia. Because like you said earlier about everything, there's so much information, there's so much data.
There.
That guide to get focused, right? So when people come to you, Matthew, and they go, hey, Matthew, I need a coach because I want to take my brand from $10 million to $100 million. And you have a system and you can help me and my team get there. Why would I choose you?
Because human behavior is going to be the factor to get there. And consistency and systems, people don't like systems, but when it comes to business, you have to have systems. You have to automate. And the only way to scale is to have systems, because I would tell you, if you don't, you're going to have people problems, because what we do when we start climbing that big, we throw people into leadership roles that have no clue what they're doing. And then I'll tell you this, Trent, Bloom's system, any operating system, Bloom system is what we choose to run, and we love it, is that what it does, like when I went to school for an MBA, the Bloom, and I'm holding the new book up here, the Bloom system it's amazing because it's what they should teach in an MBA degree. Because everything I learned in business school had no practicality when I got into business. I learned how to write things. So I tell them, if you want to scale from this to 100 million, you need a system. Well, we have a system, Trent. We have a system. Really? So why are you hitting ceilings? Why are you coming to me? And they're like, well, my leadership just doesn't do what I tell them. Oh, okay. So this is called the leadership manure pile. So when you as a leader are telling your directors to do this, it gets put under the manure where the mushrooms grow, but it doesn't get cascaded down to the janitor, right? And that's what the Bloom system is. It takes it from up here. And that was my biggest frustration, having 14 directors as I was a CEO, and nobody would cascade it down. And that's why we brought another system in, which led us to the Bloom software. And honestly, the Bloom software was the game changer, because we tried spreadsheets. We tried to put it on everything else. It was a nightmare until we plugged in the software, because then we could run all the meetings. I could see all departments pulsing. And that's what's going to get you to 100 million.
Hold that book up, because maybe, Matthew, what we got to start is, tell those people, you know what, you might want to skip the MBA and come to Flourish University with Matthew and Trent, because you're right. I think people need to learn this and get good at it, because you and I both know when they get good at it, they want more of it. Like they do it once and go, oh, I just sold this thing for 30 million. Hey, you want to do it again? Matthew, Trent, can you guys come? Let's do it again, because this is fun. It's fun. And I think the other thing is that I really think about this as you're kind of talking about it is, we have systems for everything. You have a system to mow your lawn. You have to start it. You don't start it with the engine next to the car. You don't you don't just go start waving. You don't start rolling around the mower around your yard in every direction. We start as the lines and what we're gonna do, and we roll around the edges and get the edging done, and then we want to go to the big part. Like we have systems, and we're systemizing everything all the time. And the reality of what you and I do, Matthew, is we go into organizations all the time with very little systems or fractured systems. We have a system here, but it doesn't connect to the system here. And there's a couple good systems, and then there's the absence of systems in other areas, and it's a drain. It's costing efficiency, money, communication. It's costing all sorts of things. And that lack of holistic approach is a big challenge that I see. What have you seen?
You same thing. Systems, think of the air traffic right now. When they took away the system, when the government shut down, air traffic controllers went home. Some didn't work. It was a disaster. How many flights were canceled? So that alone tells you what, if we compare it like to the Bloom system, we're the air traffic controllers, and we're looking at the business 30,000 feet above as a coach. And we're saying you need this system, and let's dig down and put the system in place, because you're in the people business, not you got to understand that as a leader, if you can't get people to do things, AI won't replace every job. Let's just be honest. It's going to really make some jobs really easy. It'll take some data things away, maybe your lower level data, and we'll see. We don't know. It's like when Google came out, we all freaked out. We just got to see. I think and I don't mean to go down an AI factor, but what it is systems are systems, and what I'm telling you is, Bloom, when we come in, we're the air traffic controllers, because you're so intense as a CEO. Where's the traffic? Where are we going? And you get tunnel vision. And so what we do as coaches, we come in and say, hey, we've been there. Me and Trent have been up at 2 a.m, not making payroll. Hey, we've hit a wall where our best player decides to resign on us, and we're freaking out, going, what am I going to do? And then we have to hustle. And so you probably saw that in the ball franchise, when one player gets traded, the whole franchise like, oh, what are we going to do now? Well, you have to adapt and adjust, right? And so even though we shut down the government, we adapted and adjusted. It still was painful, but now we put the traffic controllers back in, like the Bloom system. It's starting to pick back up. Traffic is and this is a good example. As a business, it gets clogged up because you grow so fast that the wheels are falling off, or you grow so fast that the systems don't keep up. And that's when me and Trent enter in stage right and say, hey, here's our Bloom coaches, because it's lonely at the top. What we do for the CEOs, Trent, and I think, and you could add to this, we give their life back as a CEO. I wish I would have had this years ago, because I wouldn't have been on vacation with 3 phones doing crisis management. When I implemented this system, I was on a vacation once, and I was sitting out in the rain because I was crisis managing something. I went home and I fired some people because I had this system in place. I'm like, oh, it's helping me see I'm not holding on to them. So somebody needs to go, because I'm not paying 14 of you and I'm on vacation trying to solve your problem. Because what happens as a CEO, you add all those 14 people's salary up. That's a lot of money, Trent. And I'm sitting here still doing your job. Like, this is a very common thing. Do you see that a lot?
I do see that. I see, I lived it, right? I mean, when you say, I wish I would have got this younger, I mean, oh man, like how many businesses I ran, and, I got into franchising because, and I bought 1-800-GOT-JUNK because I just felt like I'm just not knowledgeable as a business owner. I had failed in my opinion. I had failed on a company, and I was like, I didn't go to school for business. I don't know these things. I've got blind spots, and I don't know what I don't know. And I mean, if someone would come to me at 27 when that business really hit, well, it was 28 really when I hit the failure. I was like, oh man. And I can see very clearly now, like I could have shored that business up in 1 quarter with the information I know now and having a system in place, but I didn't know. And so I lost it. I lost the company. I messed up. And so I bought into a franchise so I could go back and have someone show me the fundamentals of why they chose their holistic approach, which was great. And, but I look back on that franchise and think if they would have had the system, I would have grown 4x faster.
You would have cut down the, you would have blew it up.
That's the reality of the deal, man. And it's so, but it was a different era, different time.
Well, but that's learning, right? Yeah. You have 100%. But that's what gives you, Trent. I think the biggest thing for you as a coach, the biggest superpower is you've done so much since 20s. So your wealth of knowledge brings to a team huge. And that's where I think that's what differentiates us from the standard YouTube coach that we're seeing, or social media coaches that are out there. Because I've hired some for marketing and they suck. And I've lost a lot of money doing it because this is the pains of being an entrepreneur, right? We're good at scaling.
Making mistakes,
Yeah, I'm not a social media marketer, so I've hired the wrong people there because it's a system.
I think that's when people find out, like, hey, listen, you guys, we're not cheap. Like, there's other things you can do much more inexpensively. And when I have to tell somebody, like, hey, you're not getting my rate, like my hourly rate, you're getting my 35 years of experience, right? I've started 14 companies. Like, I'm the president of EOS Michigan. Like, I've been doing this a long time. And all those experiences, and we talked about the software and the data points of 14,000 companies that have already gone through. Like, so when we talk about that, and the other thing is here's the great value that we've always brought, right? If I hire Matthew Cox, I get 10x back to my bottom line. He's going to show you how to reduce expense. He's going to show you how to find income and generate revenue and have better systems and create efficiencies that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like I thought that was expensive. And it's kind of like, I love the old adage. If you think hiring a pro is expensive, try to hire an amateur once. That will cost you a ton in all the mistakes and all the errors, you know.
I'm laughing because I've lost a lot of money in that. And that's
Yeah,
that's when somebody when somebody calls me now, I'm like, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
because that's what we bring is we've done it, and so what we have to teach them is to become their own marketer, right? And so if you're in sales, I have an uncle in Utah. He's a big consultant in the sales area. He's consulted huge companies, and he created his own sales method. And so he says the biggest thing is if you're selling a service like ours, it's what do we bring to the table? Because you have two types of buyers. You have low knowledge buyers and high information buyers. So there is no emotional buyers. It's not factual buyers, emotional buyers. You know, you've heard that, right?
yeah.
And so ones that have high information, you just got to give them a little bit of tip and they buy, right? Because they already have all the information they've been researching. And then here comes Trent, and he enters in the stage. You sit down with the CEO and their team, and they're like, "We're ready, Trent," because they've been looking, right? And so then but the low ones that don't have the information, that's probably our biggest frustration in our market, because you're trying to talk them into, hey, you need this. Oh, no, we love holding on to all of our hats. I love to be on the vacation in the rain still. And this is like a CEO. And I've talked to some of these CEOs. No, Trent, I'm good. Matt, I don't need you. I'm running a tight ship. And I'm like, really? Let me tell you. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're scaling a company, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit a system error where it's a people issue. And maybe that's where, we fall short, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't see the need of that, because there's some people, Trent, do you ever see that they love chaos?
Yeah.
I've noticed that it's like some people it's an addiction almost. What do you think?
Well, I think it's subconscious. I think
Firefighting?
Subconsciously they're firefighters, right?
They love it.
And that gives them value, because when you do it a lot, you become good at it. It's probably like my golf game, Matthew. I'm really good out of the sand because I'm over there all the time, right? So I get a lot of reps, right? So
you're digging.
So the reality is that a lot of the time subconscious, I think they're trying to cover up iniquities. They don't really want to know, because I think I'm making more money than I really am, and I don't really want to know the finances, kind of, because then I'd have to own the fact that we're spending too much, and so there's challenges in that, right? And we really have an ability to work with teams on that, right? And work through those really hard challenges and have real conversations about it. And I want to finish this, Matthew, with how people get a hold of you. How do they find you? They want to get in touch with you. You offer always a free conversation, and you and I both do a lot of free work and give a lot to companies to have them find out a lot of information, and they can take a lot of real world information back, even if they don't end up hiring guys like us. That those meetings tend to have a lot of ROI for no cost. So it's a pretty good one. But how do they get in touch with you?
They can just go to LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, Matthew Leland Cox. I'm there. It has a booking. I have a little booking thing. You can book a call with me. You can go to Matthew at excel.team. So it's just XCEL and then .team, and send me an email. But those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me. And then we can do it. Yeah, just jump on my schedule and we'll do a discovery call. We'll just dive in, and it's a no threat call. It's just, hey, what's going on? Let me know. I get calls all day solving. That's what I love to do. I'm a problem solver. But what I love to do is when I onboard a new team, I love to meet with the CEO and see what's going on, and then do a second meeting with their whole team and then show them the system. Because what I tell the CEO all the time, your team needs to hear it, so everybody says yes to it. And then when we come in, everybody's on board.
Well, Xceleration has served a lot of great companies, and I know you've got a lot of testimonials on your great success. It's pretty awesome. And for everyone out there, highly encourage, you're looking at how to get that guide, how to get somebody along. Take the time to talk with Matthew. You're gonna benefit. It's gonna be a big deal, and learn that, like, hey, listen, the humility is a big deal. Hey, I know what I know, and no, I don't know what I don't know, and you're gonna get a great value by taking the time to keep learning. Always keep learning. That lifelong learning that was so involved. You can reach Matthew at xcel.team. That is X-ray Charlie Echo Lima.team. Matthew at xcel.team, and his company is Xceleration, and it's pretty awesome. For everyone, thank you for joining us on the Winner's Find a Way show every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, live on Facebook, Leadershipity YouTube channel, LinkedIn Live, and then our full episode on all of our podcasts drops all the major networks on Friday morning. So get it here first with the video included before you check the audio on Friday. So for everyone else, we'll see you next time as winners. Find a way.